It's a cut between raw umber and I think phthalo blue. If I were at my studio, it'd probably be Prussian blue, which is not very different. It's just habit. The good thing about it is that it allows you these sort of warm, cool tilts in the chroma, and you can also get these wonderfully severe darks by combining the two of them. It's like mixing your own black. Blacks often, I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but blacks often will gray as they dry. And then the way to make them optically pop again is you have to coat them with something. And almost all the blacks are really susceptible to something called bloom. And bloom is when you wouldn't have as much trouble with that here because the atmosphere is so dry. But like say in Boston, if there's a lot of vapor in the air, I mean water as gas, not just steam, but really gas, water vapor, it will trap itself in the film of the paint as it dries. And all your darks will lose contrast against the brights. And it's a bear. So there are blacks, however, that you can kind of mix up for yourself, like say a combination of Prussian blue, raw umber, and purple lake that are extraordinarily rich blacks. So if you got things going, remember get your paint films, on their receiver coat, essentially. Don't paint into a dry board. Get a small thin bead of what I would call a receiver glaze, some linseed on there. You can put linseed on there and it's all lumpy and wet. You just wipe it right back off. And even though you wiped it off, there's still a bead of linseed there, though it may not appear. And it will make the fluidity of the work improve. So that's sort of what I'm doing now. If you wind up cleaning the brush out with your turp, and you think it's nice and clean, and you're about to wipe something away with that same brush on your painting, you'll find that even as much as you think you've got your turp out, the brush is now intensely reactive to the oil film. If you don't want that to happen, like you touch it and the white mark you made just keeps spreading on you, that's because you really need to revamp it with linseed oil to take out that sort of reactive charge. But there may be times when you actually like it, so. I think some of you are also sort of dealing with the result of a brush that is sufficiently coarse to always rake through to the white, even though you're trying to cover. When that happens, that means that you really have to have a much softer brush, one that doesn't literally, like a rake, push through the paint film so severely that it's like grooving it like rows in a tractor does to a farm. You want a soft stroke to get the coverage, and that takes a softer brush. So if you've got like a heavy bristle brush, that's going to give you problems that way. can be sometimes. Now, if in fact you have a big absorbing backing board, like made out of Homosote or something like that, before I clean my brush off with the rag, I always sop it out on that backing board after having run it through the turp or the oil a couple times. That gets rid of a lot of the stuff, so by the time you bring it to your rag for the final squeeze out, you're not contaminating the rag to the extent that you would have. And that'll make them last a lot longer. And that's important because the rag itself is a wonderfully useful tool. And if you burn through them, then you just sort of deny the use of them.
What do you use those on old t-shirts?
Good old cotton t-shirts, yeah, and preferably white so that you can see just how much contaminant there is. If you have a black t-shirt, you could have something sopping that you don't really quite recognize it as. And the problem is then when you bring the rag onto the surface for some touch-up with the rag, you can actually recommunicate paint to it by not noticing that there's too much paint on the rag.